Welcome to the course of AI-driven development with Cloud Code CLI. What is Cloud Code CLI? Well, Cloud Code is a CLI tool that connects the agents that are usually used in a browser setting with a chat-like experience into a CLI experience. Well, this is not just it. With integration into CLI, it can gain complete context of the project as it can understand complete structure of the project depending on the part where or on the section or the root folder where it is initiated. With it, it is easier to understand the code, to generate documentation, and to actually test any code that is generated. Other than that, it can perform code analysis and code refactoring with testing and with further analyzing and debugging as necessary. That means that you can generate much faster code, you can follow best practices, and you can also learn the project while it is being built. So it's not just the AI that is gaining context, it's also you. And it gives you time to focus on what matters, not just on architecture or just boilerplate, which in development it does require a significant amount of the development process. Cloud offers multiple models, but these are the models that we'll be focusing on. And Cloud Sonnet 4.5 is the best so far for development, in my own opinion and my own experience. However, you can also choose the Cloud Opus, which might be better, but the speed is far slower and it may cause a little bit of frustration based on the patience that you have as a vibe coder. Cloud Haiku is the fastest and it is perfect for simple tasks and to actually use as an agent in your development environment or even in your system to do things like generating certain files, sorting files as well, combining them into different folders, clearing out unnecessary files, and so on. But it can also do pretty much development and testing just like the other models. To get started, you need to use Node to install the CLI tool, which is Cloud Code CLI. It is recommended and it won't work in any environment that does not have Node.js of version 18 or low or higher. Basically, if you have version 17 or 16, this tool won't work. It also has, it is described here that you can use pip install with Cloud Code, but it does not offer the Cloud Code CLI anymore. It is used for accessing the Cloud Code APIs. Configuration is simple with an API key that you can generate in your Anthropic website, in your Anthropic account in the website, or you can just log in to your Cloud Code subscription via the Cloud Code CLI. At the commands, generally, for the first commands, generally, you can ask it generate, create, navigate, or even launch certain things, even Cloud Code itself. But even launching the project or launching an application, depending on your use case. How Cloud Code works? Well, it is primarily based on the context of the project, which gives it the greater advantage than just copy pasting code in a chat-based environment. So it has a greater understanding of your project as it can read all the files and the directories from the root folder of initialization. It can use any tools that you have installed in your system, or it can install other tools as well. It can break down the tasks, and it can implement and execute and test and validate the solutions. Basically, it has full read-write access, and it can find files, but also it can do every system operation, and in many cases, for certain tasks, it can even, if you command it, basically, it can generate simple scripts or even advanced scripts that do some of these things. So you're not using Cloud Code to scan or generate, but Cloud Code may create a script that does the scanning and generation of code, and then going back and forth based on input and output. Well, the development workflow pattern is basically choosing your own adventure, but it generally should be like this. Basically, you have to describe the feature you want or the bug you want to fix. You have to create a new task list. Cloud Code actually creates a task list based on what you described. The more structured it is, what you describe, the better it is and the easier it is for Cloud Code to create a task list. And it is basically, it is far less likely that it will create a list with wrong things to do. And then Cloud will implement step-by-step the solution, and it will review, iterate, test, and deploy, basically deploying in your environment. Again, it will ask you in every step what to do, and if you have to, if you can interrupt it in every part of the steps to introduce new commands, new prompts, basically. Well, debugging is the same way, and refactoring also follows the same pattern. So prompting, there's generally not a strict rule for prompting, but my recommendation is to be as specific as possible with as much more description as possible for the feature without breaking the context. So keeping the design and software principles introduced in prompting. Basically, you want to do single responsibility. You want to basically use the single responsibility principle to design the prompt. So don't ask for many features in one prompt, or don't ask for many bug fixes in one prompt. Maybe you can say create context and drop everything there, and then specify which part to fix and in what order, and then give more context for that specific part. Do not keep the prompts vague, which should be the case for any usage of a mixture of extrovert models and any LLM, not just in the context of the CLI tool. So basically, it's being specific and providing as much as possible in the part of the context, and iterating, basically refining with questions and answers to the questions that the Cloud Code agent may have. A good exercise to generate, to see a hands-on experience on how to generate a project is to basically generate a full stack application. The most widely well-known project is the To-Do app, which is used in learning new programming languages. But in this case, we'll just gain the hands-on experience on generating this, and assuming that we know programming, but we do not specifically know React and TypeScript and .NET for backend. This is interchangeable as Cloud Code, just like any other agents and any other agentic-based or agentic-driven tools can translate the backends and frontends in any framework or any library and so on. Basically, the backend can be Python or with Django, or it can be Node.js, and it can translate it, which we will try to do as well. The project structure is not important to us, as we should consider ourselves as software architects with a team of developers, as well as their PO, their product manager, project manager, and team lead. The same goes for the backend, which of course it will follow the steps, for example, generating entity models, but again, we do not have to care for this as well. This is an example of how the endpoints will look, but we will talk more about it when we go there. Well, testing the backend can be done by a Cloud Code CLI. We can test it manually if it works, but we'll try to leave as much of the groundwork as possible to the CLI tool. Same goes for frontend, and I'll show you how we can do it with actual existing tools for the frontend. The service layer of API is shown here. For the frontend, we will use Access here, which is mostly the most widely known, but we can use anything. And again, the component structure. We can use any CSS that it can, basically we can use basic CSS or Sass or less. But again, we have to be specific on the tasks for beautifying the app with CSS, and we should keep the context as clean as possible. And the testing will also be done by Claude Code, but we will do basic manual testing to see if what is built actually works. Automated testing is where this tool shines. You can add unit tests, be it backend, frontend, or even database. In the case of database, it will be integration tests, but it can do that as well. Can implement any of these features, and they can also be production ready. So we will and can add authentication, we will and can add a real search with best, following the best patterns and the best design principles. We can add reminders, deadlines, analytics, and so on. And everything that can be built here can also be built at scale, because the models are trained with code that is written with the least amount of technical debt as possible. Just a reminder on the best practices is to be specific and to break down everything into simple tasks. A rule of thumb that I use is basically just adhering to the single responsibility principle when describing things, and describing things as if you were going to describe them to yourself that knows nothing about the feature that is being built. Assuming, of course, that you are a developer. Deployment can also be done with Cloud Code, and Cloud Code can generate pipelines, CI/CD. It can interact with CLI tools for deploying to any of these services. It can also come and interact with the databases with CLI tools, of course. Basically, Cloud Code is going to use the CLI tools CLI tool, it will output whatever the response is from the CLI tool into its context. It can be a file that you can read, or it can just read it directly from the terminal. And then it's going to try to execute another command based on that. And Claude Code can generate and scan anything in a project structure. And it can do multiple file operations, and it can do multiple operations with a single command as well. It can perform code reviews, and it can apply best practices. Well, in the real world development, we would have to do much more planning, which is actually the most difficult part of the project, which determines even its velocity. As the more detailed the things are planned, the quicker is going the project to be developed. Letting Cloud Code handle Git commits is not a rule of thumb that I do, but it can interact with past commits and it can resolve merge conflicts. I prefer to do the commit myself, the last part of it, and also to review what Cloud Code has done, leaving nothing to chance. And for documentation, it not only can generate human readable documentation based on the files, the structure of the features, and the overall functionalities of your projects, but it can also generate AI friendly documentation that you can utilize as a context for another agentic AI tool with another CLI tool. So basically, keeping AI-driven development as decoupled as possible from the tool that you're using. And you can build any of these projects. Basically, the limit to project development is your imagination, of course, on projects that are already built, not on new things that are to be invented. And for documentation, Cloud Code offers a wide variety of documentation, which I will recommend you to read at your spare time, or you can also ask your Cloud Code CLI to read it for you and create a summary. Well, this is yeah, you can do all of this and maybe even more. Well, what you can take from this video is that Cloud Code will accelerate your development regardless of whether you're a good user or a bad user of it. It may cause developer frustration, but as long as you are very specific and as long as you assume that it forgets what you tell it, it is going to be accelerating your development. AI is to be used as a partner and not a replacement. You cannot let AI running on the background. Well, actually you can, and I'll show you that how you can do that. However, it is better to utilize it in a way that you would outsource tasks to mid or junior developers. Basically, at the end of the day, it is you who are designing and developing the project via LLMs and via Cloud Code in this case. with its Cloud Code CLI client. And this means that the project depends on your prompts. The more defined your prompts, and the more attentive are you to what Cloud Code is developing, the better your project is going to be, and the fewer the bugs that will be introduced will be. One thing that is not mentioned here is that you can create design complete development by keeping a folder of the designs of the project that may be built in a tool like Adobe XD or Figma as images that Cloud Code can scan. And this will be the end of this course, where we will have a full functioning to-do list application built with Cloud Code with Docker Compose based development, as I'm not going to run this anywhere. And thank you for listening to me and following this step-by-step guide.